So welcome again, everybody. Glad to have you on board for today's webinar. As I said, today it will be about integration of dox42 for document automation, but very importantly, also, of course, M files. And it will be about how you level up your document automation and document generation in M files. My name is Johannes Linder. I am the lead technical evangelist at dox42. And I know something about dox42, but there's some expert here as well today for M files. So once again, thank you very much, Patrick, for being on board, and hello to Belgium.
Thank you, Johannes. As Johannes just introduced myself, I'm Patrick from SoftAdvice, a proud reseller of M files in Belgium, Luxembourg, and part of the Dutch part of Europe. So happy to be on this webinar together with Johannes.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. And what's the plan for today? So, of course, well, we will have some insights into both the world of M files, but also into dox42. And we probably need to unpause the screen, right?
Sorry. That's, of course, what happens when you talk about beers and all the fun things. You forget that you still need to work. So I think everybody should now be viewing the agenda.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, as you see, dox42, we will also have a look into the M file side of it. And then, while the most important part will be about how you can bring those all together, we will have a use case that will be about employee contracts. We will also give you some insights into what Excel in dox42 could also do. And yeah, there are always for you the option to ask questions. So just some general introduction facts about the webinar today. It will probably last around 30 minutes. So plus minus, we expect to be there. There will always be time for questions and answers. Some of them we will answer towards the end of the session. Some we will answer if for example, they are like, we are in that very moment to answer them. If one thing that you would be happy if you could already help us with is if you want to try the chat. I hope you hear us properly. And just to confirm that you hear us properly, if you could just in the chat say, yes, we do. That would be, first of all, very helpful. And secondly, you'd know where the chat is. I think that's pretty much it from a general introduction side. Perfect. Already see the first people confirming that the chat works fine. What's dox42? dox42 is a product, software manufacturing product about document automation. And our core competence is that the document automation part is in an application that is whatever you prefer, like we will see today in M files. But in the background, maintaining those templates is Office. So it's Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. And the flexibility of the integration, as we will see today, for example, gives you the options to generate documents within M files. But at the same time, if you have other applications, you can also use dox42. And that's kind of the switch of the idea that the document automation part is not at the end of one software, but it's a software Lego that you can integrate into multiple applications. We will see in more detail in a second which ones are mentioned there. But also when it comes to the reference cases, there are quite a lot when it comes to dox42 in industries. And of course, any kind of business process requires the documents, then it can be used with dox42. What you see here is the Word add-in on the left-hand side. So as I said, dox42 integrated into Word, with the blue fields being the data that you integrate into it. So for example, as we see today with M files, and that also these documents can get very complex. So what we see here, for example, is of course, there are simple things like text data, but you also want to integrate images, barcodes, text modules, also some charts like we see down below here. And that's also something which we will later see in the live demo on how you automate, for example, also those charts in Excel in the background. Now, we mentioned that M files is one thing that we will see today, but there are also a lot of other data sources. And well, those of you who are familiar with whatever architecture, infrastructure you have in your environment, you will see that, for example, if you want to combine M files with an ERP, be it Dynamics, be it SAP, or be it also some other like Salesforce, you could do and integrate so. And that gives you the flexibility that you also can combine those data sources at the very same time. And I think that's probably one of the most important ones when it comes to dox42. You can use it in M files, but you can also use it in other ones. And in the background, you can work with an Office document. All right. So much about a quick intro about dox42. Patrick, what's M files all about?
Thank you very much, Johannes. Well, M-Files, it's all about document management, information management. M-Files is an information document management platform with headquarters in Finland, but serving basically more than 100 countries throughout more than 300 partners. SoftAdvice is one of the delivery partners of M-Files. We have about 7 certified consultants and serving daily more than 3,500 users in Belgium, Luxembourg, or the Netherlands. And we do so by developing, basically implementing M-Files, but also developing different add-ons to help people in the 5 basic sectors we are active in doing something more about efficiency. We are mainly active in accountancy, business, real estate, construction, healthcare, and government organizations. As I've been explaining, that we are an M-Files delivery partner, which basically means also that we have some people being able to amend the platform and tune it and develop tools to get some worry-free document management, and in this case, developing the add-on with dox42. I will explain you a bit more about what we have done by joining the best of the both worlds, meaning that we are have been looking at dox42 to intelligently generate document templates and combine it with the force of M-Files. At your left-hand side in the corner, you can see that this is the data map designer, and it's basically the link in your Word add-in towards M-Files. If you look in the middle, you see the M-Files data source, and that means that within the add-in of dox42, we have opened up access towards the M-Files metadata structure, and you can just, as I will show you, also amend and check and see metadata in your Word add-in. Which basically means that you can just drag and drop fields, metadata fields from out of M-Files towards your Word document and generate your Word document based upon metadata through the dox42 plugin. We have not stopped there because quite quickly we saw that we also could add some extra power by using the workflow engine of M-Files and just with an application being able to send out documents to the dox42 generator and have it included in the workflow management of M-Files. And that's something which I will demonstrate in the first use case. It's generating HR documents in M-Files based upon the Word add-in template. If everything is correct, I think that my screen is visible of M-Files. Johannes, can you just confirm that you see my M-Files screen? Yes. Okay. I think it's okay, Johannes.
Sorry, I was muted.
No problem.
Yes, of course. So we see the M-Files dox42.
I was just checking that you're still alive and following what I'm going to explain.
Of course I do.
Okay, thank you. This is the M-Files interface. M-Files is standard document management, purely 100% metadata driven, which basically means that on a document you can add metadata, and we do some magic with the workflow engine around the metadata. What I will do now is I will create a document based upon an M-Files template. Now, just for people who want to see more about the integration with M-Files, we have a Word template available in M-Files, and this Word template is used and hooked up towards our M-Files database. So I'm opening up the template, and you will then be able to see the data mapping, and the data mapping is the link between the dox42 technology and the M-files structure. So if you have opened up your template, you will see the add-in in Word popping up next to the M-files add-in. You see the dox42 add-in, and this allows you to select different data fields by using the data map. And for the people who already know dox42, just wanting to show you that what we did is within the data map, we use a custom data source, which allows you to access the M-files database. It's very simple. This is the Vault connection, which is the connection from M-files towards dox42. And based upon that, you can then retrieve all the metadata you have available in M-files. As you know, M-files is fully customizable. So depending on your use case, you can select the metadata, whatever you would like to see. For this use case, I have made a data map which is going to query the employer metadata, the employee metadata, and the data which I will put on my document as being the HR agreement. Johannes will show you in the Excel how that would work if you would push the generate button. I will just not do that because I will use the workflow engine to generate my document just to make sure that everybody understands also the integration. So I have a template available in my M-files, and I'm generating a new document in M-files, which is basically an empty file on which I will put some extra metadata. So I have the employer contact data. This is standard working of M-files. So I will be employed at the company dox42, and I have some metadata, which is the employee, and I will choose Chip Chipper as being the new employee. Is he going to be a manager? No, he will not be a manager. The document date will be the 5th, and he is not getting a company car. So Chip Chipper is a new employee. I'm just pushing directly on the create button. You'll see here below, for people who know M-files, that I'm generating a contract in a contract workflow in the draft status. On the moment I do so, you see that the document is generated here. Be aware that I can click on the document, and at the right-hand side, I can see the workflow state the document is in. I'm making use of the add-on developed by SoftAdvice in this case, which is the workflow visualizer, just to make it visible for the end user to see in what state the document is. For people who have just looked very carefully, you saw that the green folder has become a Word document, which means that the background operation of M-files has pushed the document to render to dox42, has taken all the template, and just by now checking out, I can just quickly see the generated document in my Word environment. So I'm opening up my template. Just wait a second to have my add-ins loaded, and you'll see that my Word document has filled in with simple fields out of my M-files environment. I've just put this in green so you notice, but here you see dox42, here you see Chip Chipper. So basically my M-files metadata is inserted within my document. You see here that clause 7 is the termination and 8 is the entirety of the document. If I would now close my document, I check it back into M-files, I can use the M-files metadata card and just correct something because Chip Chipper, he was a manager or he is a manager. And so I'm just changing the value of the metadata from no to yes. I will save the metadata, and I will be able, by pushing the document into the new workflow step, re-render the document without changing or without pushing the generate button. I can now decide that I would re-render the document. In the background, the workflow will push the document back to dox42, and it's generating a second document. Just to make the distinction, I will just open up the document and you'll see part of the power of the conditional add-in of dox42. So based upon the Boolean I have changed on the metadata card, it's updating the Word document by regenerating it. And you will see that it has added a very important clause. When Chip Chipper is a manager, he should be aware that he's signing a non-confidential agreement. So basically in green, you see without changing anything, just updating the metadata file, I have always the same template. I've just added an 8th character chapter. You see that everything is renumbered, which is standard dox42, and I can now finish off my document. For this case, I have just done a very small workflow of the document, but you could imagine that once I re-render the document, I could start up an approval flow, send it over for electronic signature towards the employee, and just have it passed on to the next step. So that was the short introduction to the dox42 connector. So hope you see some light in this interesting case. Johannes will also show you a second case where we integrate Excel sheet with metadata of M files. Johannes, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So I will just steal the screen. And what I briefly want to show you, in this case, we will have a look into it from the add-in side. So of course, everything that Patrick has shown in terms of you will be able to already just do this from M files directly. But what's the advantage of using it also in Excel? And for example, if there is some reports that you want to output, made that it's either going to be as an Excel directly, or that you also want to visualize more complex things in a document, which we'll come to the questions later on. But I think also just already mentioning something about it is one of the big advantages is that we, for example, have seen a very simple document, as Patrick has shown, but they can get a lot more complex when you think about all the conditioning and like having documents into documents. But we'll get to that later. And also Excel, of course, is an extra that you can use. And what I just briefly want to show you here is, for example, we have the data and we also have charts as the moment we generate this document, in this case locally, right? This is something you then do just from M files directly. But as soon as you generate, it will update the data here. And of course, also the according charts. Now that's something that is more like from the Excel capabilities if you want to output the Excel. If you want to visualize something that is in M files to be outputted also in a Word document, let me show you the very same example with the very same metadata, but in Word. So what we can do here, for example, so this is going to be already in terms of the data, a little more complex because it will also insert images. It will also repeat, for example, table data. And what it will also do, it will, in the background, do the very same thing it just did in the Excel, but output in Word, or if you want to automatically output it as a PDF, also perfectly fine. So we can just click on generate here, and you will see the very same visualizations that we just did in Excel can then also be used in a Word or PDF report. So if you also want to use dox42 as a part of a reporting output, that it would, for example, provide a management summary, also with visualizations, etc., you could do so. And in terms of the data, it can also get a lot more complex. Good. Just to give you some idea about what else is possible there. And of course, there are many, many more scenarios, because usually a case that happens to us is if dox42 is implemented with a customer, there might be a first use case that could be, for example, HR documents that you do within M files. But then there's, let's say, another contract that is going to be around reporting. Then maybe there might be another one where you automate PowerPoint presentations that you need for a sales case. So kind of like the idea of dox42 growing an organization is quite a standard one. And yeah, I think that already leads us pretty much also to the summary of what we have seen today. I will just again unsteal my screen, right?
Okay, and I will just make sure
Perfect.
to have the summary.
Yes, we just let it be here for a second. I think at the end of the day, to our customers, the most important ones are that you in the background use Office, so everybody will know how to work with those templates. Although, of course, in a project, only very few do. So let's say, for example, the HR scenario, you'd probably have 1 or 2 people in the background designing those documents, a lot of people leveraging the potential. And at the same time, if there is an update in the corporate design, it's Word-based, so very easy to be done. But if you want to use it not only in mFiles, but somewhere else, that is also something where dox42, I think, can work with its strength. And in terms of, like, for example, we have customers that work with SharePoint or that work with an ERP where they already use dox42. And now as the output could be mFiles, it will still leverage the potential in all the different applications. Good. I just briefly have a look into the questions. And so the first one, we pretty much already tried to answer to some extent from my side, but I think, Patrick, you probably can also add something to this. So the first question is that I know there are native document generation mFiles. What would be advantages of going through dox42?
Going to dox42 would give an extra power to the native integration. The native integration of mFiles means that you can simply take some placeholders, which are purely metadata, put them into Word, and then it will generate the document without any problem. By adding dox42, you would add some intelligence layer there, as I had shown with, for example, the Boolean, he's a manager, yes, I'm adding up in the same document based on an if clause. If the Boolean is yes, I'm adding up an extra paragraph, an extra chapter into the document, which would natively not be possible with mFiles. We have currently one customer going live with the connector, and we choose to do it with dox42 instead of with the native mFiles integration, because we ended up with about 100 templates, which we actually, by putting in dox42, we could minimize it to less than 10 templates to maintain. And that means on the longer term that this customer is very happy. He just needs to maintain 10 documents and can do his selection within mFiles, and mFiles and dox42 will pick up the right content in his document. So it's a bit more than the standard integration. It's putting a layer of intelligence into mFiles and dox42 on top of that.